Welcome to the Happy Lawyer Project. I'm your host, Akoma Moronu, and I created this show to help lawyers find happiness in life with a law degree. Together with my guests, we provide the knowledge, skills, insight, inspiration, and encouragement you need to find your happy. Today's guest is a truly impressive attorney whose accomplishments are only outdone by her big goals for the future. During our conversation, we chat about what drove Sierra E. to pursue partnership at a big law firm, how she secured her role as a regular guest legal correspondent on CNN, and why she's so excited about her newest project, SuitKits. As lawyers, we're not only trained to identify specific problems, but our job is to propose solutions. With SuitKits by Sierra E., Sierra has taken things one step further. She not only noticed that there was a lack of access to well-designed suits that make women feel comfortable and confident in their everyday lives, but she decided that instead of sitting around complaining about it, she was going to create real solution that reimagines the way women's suits are designed and sold. I know that you'll love today's episode for the inspirational story, the practical advice, and the behind-the-scenes look at SuitKits by Sierra E. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Welcome back to the show, Happy Lawyers, and I am super excited to introduce you to today's guest, Sierra Elizabeth. How are you, and welcome to the show?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So in full disclosure, I should let people know that this is the second time we're doing this, but Sierra has been so wonderful to come back on and share her story with us again, because I had technical difficulties the first time. So hopefully the show will be even better than the practice round. But so
that's right. We got all of our practice in.
So for everybody out there who's not heard of you, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure. I consider myself a lot of things. I consider myself an entrepreneur. I started my own company this year called SuitKits that by the time this airs will be launching in just a few short days. So that's super exciting. I am a lawyer. I became a partner at the globally recognized law firm of Kirkland & Ellis in 2015, and I've also worked as a volunteer city prosecutor prosecuting DUIs. I am a TV personality, I guess, because I've worked as a guest legal correspondent for CNN, and we'll probably have some more TV projects coming up in the near future. And I kind of round that out by saying I'm a mentor. I mean, I take my role as a mentor pretty seriously, in particular for women, young women, Black women, indigent women, so that they can experience the same educational and professional opportunities that I've been so blessed to have myself.
So there's a lot to tackle in there, and there's so much that I want to share with everybody. So let's start with your practice. Why did you choose entertainment litigation? What drew you to that practice area? And really, which is the question that everybody who leaves BigLaw wants to know for those who stay, what kept you in the practice?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So first of all, you know that saying, like, you plan, God laughs. That really sums up my entertainment litigation practice, because I actually came from an entertainment family. So my dad was a Temptation from the singing group, like the Real Temptation.
Wait, what?
I know. It's like one of those things. My mom was a director, producer, and was in soap operas like Young and the Restless for many years. My aunt is Lawrence Fishburne's manager, along with many others, executive producer of Blackish. So like literally my whole life was entertainment. And they were like, are you going to become a model or a dancer or an actress? And just like, you know, the kid who grows up with the doctor, lawyer, parent, and who wants to become a musician, I was like, no, I want to do something really like normal and boring, but also get a paycheck every 2 weeks. So I went into the law thinking I was going to be a product liability lawyer, which I still do a little bit of, but basically I didn't want to do entertainment law at all. And I just happened to develop a relationship with a mentor of mine who's now my sponsor, who had just had his 5th kid, and his practice was white collar, which required him to fly from LA to DC all the time. And that wasn't working for him or his wife. And so he had to kind of rebrand himself in his, late 40s. And so he decided he was going to do entertainment work and he wanted to put a practice together, and he asked me to join. And to be honest, at first, I kind of was like, I don't really want to do this. I mean, I just didn't think that that's where I was going to be. And it just kind of worked out that we had super interesting cases coming in. I loved him. I thought he would be a great support for my career going forward. And then it just kind of all worked out. But to kind of answer your question about why I've stayed, I've really enjoyed it. So there's a couple things that like really kind of helped me to stay in the profession. First of all, I'm just very intellectually curious. And I think when I talk to my other friends who have jobs that, might provide them a good living or might allow them to have a 9 to 5 rather than a 9 to 10 or 12 like me, they always talk about how bored they are and how, they've kind of learned it and there's nothing else to gain. And it's kind of just like clocking in. And my job has never been like that. I mean, I am learning and stretching my brain every day that I go into work and dealing with some of the most complex issues and most interesting characters. And I love that. I mean, that kind of keeps me going. I couldn't lie and say that the money wasn't great either. so that helps. But also, I've just had really great support. I think some of that has kind of been the luck of the draw, and others I've worked really hard to develop relationships with and create opportunities for myself in conjunction with them and at their direction. And so when you feel appreciated and you feel like you're actually moving the ball, you're motivated to continue.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you specifically create opportunities for yourself? Because I know that sometimes as a woman in the law and as a, woman of color in the law, at the end of the day, our profession is very much still an apprenticeship profession. And the way you get ahead, it's not that you're better it's not a meritocracy, And sometimes I think people slave away billing the hours and doing the work, but they're not getting the mentorship and they're not building the relationships. And so how did you in your career go about doing that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. A couple things. I mean, first, you have to kind of know more than other people, but not from like an academic perspective, like from a logistics perspective. So when I came into the law firm, I wanted to know, everybody's name. I wanted to know where the photocopy machine was in case there was something that needed to be copied late at night. I wanted to know where the fax machine was because there was a fax machine at the time. Shows how old I am. And I wanted to know who the secretaries were because, to be honest, they knew much more than anybody else in the office. So I kind of really did my homework on like where I am, who's around me, and, how to kind of troubleshoot some things. I also learned that like if you don't speak up, you won't get fed in terms of, getting work from partners, et cetera. And you won't be seen as a person that's capable of promotion. I mean, the people that you see succeed at the law firm level are generally not just type A, but willing to kind of take on that extra project, willing to give their opinion in meetings. I remember I was so afraid to do that, especially in front of clients early on in my career. And I was lucky to be at a firm that actually encouraged me to do that. But especially for women, I think, are a lot of the times the inclination is to kind of sit back, observe, think about issues deeply before we speak. But sometimes it really just requires like, I have an opinion. This is what I think is right. We can talk about it and let's go from there. And I think once you kind of get that mentality that you are just as capable and knowledgeable as everyone else in the room, then you can really start to go far.
That's such a good point. And I think that one of the hardest shifts going from student to young associate is that realization that your partner isn't like your professor. The professor already knows kind of what they've like created the syllabus. So they know where they're going with a topic. They've read that case a million times. If a partner asks you to research something, they haven't read it. So your opinion actually matters, and if they're misinterpreting something, they may just be misinterpreting it because you've probably spent a little bit more time on it than they have. And I think that shift is really hard because it's almost this feeling like it's a trick or a test to see how well you can get, write the memo that they already know the answer to, but it's not that.
It's not, absolutely. And part of the reason, again, kind of going back to why I kind of fell in love with the law, I guess, is there's rarely a right answer. I mean, that's kind of the fun part, right? Like you get to throw things around, you get to come up with new strategies, you get to think about things differently. And sometimes even when there seems to be a right answer, like the way that it's always been done, like the question then is, how do we change that?
Yep. No, I tell people all the time that once you get past that uncertainty and you learn to be less anxious around it, and then it becomes less about yes or no and more about how, like you said. I always say, like, as a lawyer, my job is not to tell the CEO yes or no to his question. It's, what do you want to do? Let's figure out what our options are to do that and what the risk profiles are.
Yep, totally agree.
See, I always say that I'm like, oh, lawyering is so boring. I like talk to other lawyers and I'm like, no, it's fun. It can be really exciting. So let's chat a little about your role as a CNN legal correspondent, because obviously I have not had anybody who's a TV personality on before. So I'd love to know a little bit about how that came about and kind of what that entails.
Yeah, so another kind of just crazy story about my life. Again, I did not want to do anything entertainment related. So the way that I got to become a CNN legal correspondent is kind of by luck and kind of by persistence. So I was litigating for the show, So You Think You Can Dance, and I had a witness that I was prepping who used to be basically like a TV personality recruiter. And she said, you know what, you would be really great on television. Like, would you be interested? And I said, no, I'm good lawyering and my whole family does that. I'm good. And she said it again. And she said, well, why don't I just introduce you to a friend of mine who works at CNN and you guys can kind of take it from there. And so out of basically respect for her, I said, all right, I will reach out to your friend. Thank you so much for seeing that in me when I didn't see it in myself. So I reached out to her friend and the friend kind of stiffed me. Like she didn't respond to my email for like a month. And I thought, this is so weird. Like, I didn't even want to do this. And now that I did, I'm kind of getting rejected. So being the weird kind of lawyerly person that I am, I put a calendar reminder in my calendar for every kind of 3 months. I would email her again and remind her basically that she hadn't responded to my email and that I had promised her friend that I would get in touch with her. So literally a year later, she had responded obviously in the interim, but a year later, we finally coordinated schedules and met up at the Redbury Hotel in Hollywood. And after one drink, she said, "You're great. Do you want to be on TV next week?" And that was kind of scary. And I said, well, what does that mean? She's like, well, I have a live television show for CNN called the Jaden Velez Mitchell Show, and we need somebody for next week, and it'd be just like 30 minutes of your time, but it's live, and it's live. And because I am not afraid to take risk and I'm weirdly up for crazy challenges, I said, all right, I will see you on Tuesday at the CNN Bureau. And there I was. And it kind of just went from there. And I was basically asked to be kind of a on-call legal correspondent for them and did quite a few shows after. I do less now because my business is kind of taking up my time, but I'm still technically on call. So it was kind of a little bit of luck because who gets that opportunity? But it was also the persistence of me following up on the opportunity and also being able to take the risk when it presented itself.
There's a lot in there that I think will resonate with people, and you hear when you're trying to accomplish something. You need to be persistent, you need to be willing to take risks. But like in a case like that, I'd be interested in your thoughts on how do you know how long to be persistent? Like if she hadn't responded for like how, you know what I mean? Did you in your mind have a sense of how long you were going to pursue that before you gave up? Or were you just kind of really going to pursue it until you kind of closed the door with her?
I'm kind of like a dog with a bone when I start something. Listen, if she wouldn't have ever responded after 2 attempts or 3 attempts, then I may have let it go. But she responded, and it was kind of one of those things like busy people where you're just like, oh, I would love to meet then, and this doesn't work, and you're like resetting the calendar. And I feel like that's what happens more so. It's like you kind of have that kernel of like, this is going to happen, and then for some reason or another, like things keep kind of coming up, especially in this day and age where everybody's so busy all the time. And so that is kind of when I actually encourage people to keep at it, because I really do think that genuinely most people, like I think she did want to meet with me. I think, her friend did think that, this was a good opportunity, but like it just wasn't working out, but everybody wanted it to. So in that circumstance, I would have kind of kept going. But in terms of other situations, I'm trying to think of something that I did give up on, because I do think that you have to go with your gut as well. Sometimes you're doing something for someone else and it's really not for you. And so I would also encourage people to kind of do a deep dive on why they're really doing it. I was doing it for good reasons. I was doing it to challenge myself. I was doing it because I thought it'd be a great opportunity to kind of develop my own brand. And so it moved from like somebody else putting me in the position to me actually wanting to do it. And so kind of going through that thought process with yourself might be really helpful.
And did the firm have any input or any issues with it, or did that play out?
Yeah, I think, every firm is different. My firm is very supportive as a general matter, but I will say I had to go through a lot of forms and meetings and convincing to be able to get that opportunity.
Do you think that the relationships you had developed helped you to be able to take on the opportunity, or do you think it really is firm dependent and some firms are going to be able to get over the line, whereas at others, it's really just not a non? The reason I ask this question is because I get a lot of emails from people who are like, hey, I would love to start a podcast at my firm, but I don't know if it's something even worth approaching people about, or if they're just going to laugh in my face. People want to bring things to their firm, but they don't sense that their quote unquote firm is going to be open to it. And I'm always like, well, find people who you think you could convince internally before bringing it to the firm. But I don't know.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, the first person that I went to was my sponsor, who was the head of the Los Angeles office. And I said, hey, this is what I want to do. This opportunity has presented itself. Like, let's figure out a way to make this happen. So for sure, like having a shepherd in that way is really, really helpful. I also did a really good review of like firm policy.
Of course.
And what, was allowed and not allowed. Again, when you're a lawyer, there's a lot of potential for conflicts of interest. And so you have to make sure that, the firm is trying to protect itself, not just because they don't want you to have fun and experience things, but also if you represent certain clients at your firm and then you're talking about the other side, that can sometimes be problematic. But I think you're exactly right. Like, I think you kind of build your case just like you would with, your client's case, and then kind of go with that ready-made package of like, this is why I should do it. This is the opportunity. This is how it's going to help me. This is how it's going to help the firm. And generally, you'll get a lot further than you might otherwise suspect.
So you mentioned in passing, but also, it's part of the reason I have you on the show, that your new business is what's been keeping you so busy that you haven't been able to do as many of the CNN spots. So tell us about this new project. What is SuitKits and how did you develop the idea?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm super excited about this. This is like literally my baby. I have no children of my own, so I really feel like I'm about to give birth to my first child. SuitKits is an online platform that helps busy women design custom suits to fit their body, their job, and their style in 10 minutes or less. So what does that mean? That means that we have literally created this website where you can log on. You can select what kind of custom suit you want to make. So business professional, business casual, or fashion forward. You select that template, as we call it, and you're met with a virtual stylist who says, welcome, I'm going to help you design the suit of your dreams, and basically helps you pick fabrics, colors, buttons, linings, lapels, etc. And you see all of your decisions made real time in this 3D graphic suit builder that's like so cool. And she will give you suggestions along the way so that it's really streamlined and really easy. Like if you've picked this color, she'll say, oh, these linings are really great for that, or this button is really great for that. So it really makes it efficient and streamlined. And then once you create your suit, you are going to be prompted to visit one of our tailoring partners. So we are launching in New York, Chicago, DC, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. And we have vetted the best tailors in that area who will take approximately 21 of your body measurements, input those body measurements into our app. That gets associated with your order, sent to our manufacturer to make, and our distribution center in Los Angeles will pack it all pretty for you and send it directly to your home or office for the custom suit of your dreams.
I cannot even begin to imagine how you got this off the ground. How long has this been in the works for you?
Oh, man. Okay. Well, technically, I've been wanting to do this forever. I mean, I obviously am a lawyer. I have worn suits throughout my career in court. I like suits. Like I told you, my dad was a Temptation. And so he always had custom suits and beautiful colors. And I would go with him to Asia to visit tailors. So I've kind of always been in the suit game myself. And I've just been frustrated that there's really nothing in the United States that allows you to customize a beautiful suit that can fit your body. And, you know, even though I have a slim body type, I was a former athlete. So my thick thighs and my broad shoulders just do not work for off the rack stuff. So I've been thinking about it for a long time and just kind of thought that someone else would do it. And then as the years passed, I mean, I've been a lawyer now for 10 years and I've needed a good suit for 10 years and I haven't been able to find one at a price point that really makes sense. So in earnest, I really kind of took on the project in late summer of 2017, so just over a year ago, and found and put together the most amazing team who have great fashion experience and background and supply chain and distribution and all of that stuff to kind of really help me put the finishing touches on everything. And we're so excited to launch soon.
So I didn't realize it was only a year. That's
I know. See, when I said I'm like a dog with a bone, like I get these ideas and I'm like, okay, like this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to spend every day of my life doing it.
So, I mean, you're clearly action oriented, which I love. And it's very the way I am too. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I'm going to have a podcast. And then I just had a podcast and, you know, people will send me emails and be like, what research did you do? You know, like how did you learn? Like what training and courses did you take? I was like, I just bought a mic and I started talking to people and recording it. You know what I mean? I was like, I know how to talk. I know what sounds good. And I just did a lot of practice conversations to see if it was something I enjoyed. And then I just put them out there. But I'd be interested in understanding a little bit more about how you go through your process. Are you somebody who kind of is like, you know what the end goal is and you're just moving towards that? Or you really are like, what's the next thing I need to do? And each day you're just kind of like muscling through the individual steps.
I think it's probably situation specific, but I am the type of person that I kind of have an end goal in mind. And so, you know, I don't necessarily think I write it down or kind of, you know, whisper it in my dreams at night, but I do kind of have the ability to kind of have vision, identify a problem and say, okay, what are the steps that I need to do to get there? But to be honest, I think my greatest trait, at least as it pertains to this, is that I'm flexible and I'm okay with pivoting and kind of dealing with situations as they arise. And I think I really get that trait from kind of being a trial lawyer. I mean, anyone who litigates and who tries cases in court knows that like things are not going to happen the way that you planned. You can plan all day and all night, and there will still be something that you could have never anticipated. And it's how you react to that thing or those things that will really determine the outcome, or at least have a huge impact on the outcome. And so I try at least not to get too caught up with or upset at things that are not necessarily seeming like they're going the right way or anything like that, because I think that like with that end goal in mind, you know that you can still get there, but you might have to take a different road. And I actually have a tattoo that says destined for greatness, but the way that it's drawn, it's like my path is not straight, but it's destined.
I love that so much. And I think there's so many people out there, I was going to say young lawyers, but it's really people of all ages and in every stage of their career, whether it's within the legal profession or outside the profession, who have this big goal and they're just stuck because they don't know how to execute on that goal. And I'm interested in how you reconcile your persistence with your flexibility.
I don't know if I could answer that.
And there might not be an easy answer. I think that's something that people really struggle with, is when they feel like it's not working. How do you know when to push through, and how do you know whether it's time to pivot? Because I don't know that I know the answer either, but I know that everybody has kind of different things, whether it's a gut feeling or whether it's a to-do list, a pro-con list. People have different ways for trying to make that kind of decision in the road. And I didn't know if you had anything in particular or any words of advice, since you seem to be able to bring things to fruition.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I guess one thing I would say that I heard at a conference a few years back is that everybody should have their own personal board of directors. So people that you can go to for different things that really kind of help to craft any plan that you're planning to take. And so I have a really great support system. My board of directors is strong. And so to the extent that I do get to a point where I'm unclear, I go to those people and they play, different roles in my life. So for whatever kind of is relevant for them, I definitely take their counsel. And then the other thing is, I actually think that, like I said earlier, I do really try to go with my gut. And I think that's easy to say, but for many years, I recognized in myself that I would have these quote unquote gut feelings, but I wouldn't believe it. I would say, oh, that's not really what I'm feeling, or I would just try to ignore it. It's actually really, really powerful to really listen to that internal voice. And I don't think people really do it. I think they say they might, but they don't really do it in an earnest way. And so when I say, I go with my gut, I really am deeply thinking about what this means for me, for other people, for my career, for my decision-making process, and going with what feels the most authentic to me.
I actually think that's a fantastic answer, because I think as lawyers, a lot of the paralysis comes from an over-intellectualizing.
Mm-hmm.
and this feeling if we just keep it up in our brains enough, and if we just work it enough, answer will come out. And both of your points are so good. It's you can rely on other people. You can outsource some of that thinking, and you can, bounce ideas up other people. You don't have to sit there in your room by yourself. And also sometimes you feel it and it in places that aren't your brain. I feel everything in my stomach. I'm someone who very much is the pit in the stomach is so real for me,
Yeah.
And I know when I say yes to something I should have said no to, that feeling hits me immediately.
Yep. Well, that's great. I'm glad you can identify it.
For different people, different things, right? I think some people feel it in their chest, some people feel it in their throat, and some people feel carry it physically on their shoulders. And it's amazing how if you just sit and think and just feel, so much of our emotions are kind of our body reacting to our thoughts. And
absolutely,
it's a great way to get feedback that isn't filtered by your own, bias.
Absolutely.
So let's chat just briefly a little bit more about Suits, since I also am someone who loves Suits, but I've been in-house for a couple years now. I haven't been on an interview in a while. I don't go to client meet. I'm in an industry where everybody's very casual. It's a lot of engineers, a lot of ground, people working in a hangar. So it's not really, it's not really suit. And I really miss getting to wear a suit, but I'd love to know, for people who are still in a career where they're wearing lots of suits, or who are kind of early in their careers and are just starting to build that wardrobe and be able to spend money on suits because they finally have some. What is your advice about simple guidelines or suggestions for building that professional wardrobe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do hear that a lot. Some women say, oh, I don't have to wear a suit every day anymore. And usually that's a good thing, because all the suits that they've ever bought are terrible, which we hope to change. But I will just kind of quickly say we really are positioning ourselves to be a custom clothing line beyond suits, even kind of in our first launch, because the reason why we've launched business casual and fashion forward suits is because we wanted to offer things like crop pants and wide leg pants and, jackets without lapels that you can, wear to a more casual environment, or, things with bright colors. So we get it. We totally understand. And we're going to service everyone who wants beautiful, tailored clothing to fit their body. But back to your question about, those people that are wearing suits for work or, trying to prepare themselves adequately for their jobs, especially in the younger years. There's a couple things that I've done to kind of help me be prepared for certain things. The first is that, related specifically to suits actually, is I actually got a couple opportunities early on in my career because I was the only one in the office who had a suit hanging in my closet as backup. And I got to go to court a few times because our office was business casual unless you went to court. So a lot of people weren't wearing suits in their office, and they actually weren't prepared to go to court if something came up. So I say that to say maybe it's not necessarily a suit in your literal closet, although for some people it might. It's about kind of thinking 2 steps ahead and being ready and prepared for opportunities that arise. They say, like, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. That's kind of what we think about at SuitKits, like having a suit in your closet that you love and that makes you feel great and good for that potential interview that comes up that you're not expecting is going to really translate for you, not just because of the suit, but because, you feel good and you look good. And that translates in so many ways. I can't tell you how many times I would go interview at law schools across the country for my firm, and there are women who are wearing suits that are too big, suits that are too small. They're fidgeting. They're not wearing a suit at all because they can't find anything that fits them or they can't afford anything. And you see them as an interviewer fidgeting. You see them kind of looking uncomfortable. That's like the interviewer is not thinking, oh, it's because of her suit, like she doesn't like her suit or whatever. They're thinking, oh, she's nervous, she's not prepared, she's not qualified. Like those are the things that actually prevent you from getting a literal job. And so kind of what we stress is take pride in how you feel, not just how you look, but how you feel. Like if you know the difference between wearing something that actually fits you and wearing something that doesn't, you won't ever go back.
So you dropped in a mention about they couldn't afford it. So I have to ask, what are the price points and what should people expect to spend on a custom suit?
That's a great question. So we are priced starting at about $399 and going up from there. And so you could literally get a suit from anywhere from $399 to $599 on our website. Now, for some people, obviously, that's very expensive. And so we have a membership program called the Squad or the SuitKit Squad that allows you to gain credits that you can discount, that you put towards your suits for discounts and things like that. And we also run a program called SuitKits for Scholars. So that's where we have young high school and college-aged women write into us, tell us their story, and we give them free business professional suits for purposes of interviews and their first job. So we're always kind of thinking about how we can give back to our communities, how we can really support women, even those that can't really afford our price point. But from my perspective, I think we've really kind of hit the sweet spot here. If you get a suit from Theory or Brooks Brothers, you're looking sometimes at $700, $800, and that's for an off-the-rack suit that's not going to fit most women. So we've worked really, really hard to keep our processes lean so that we can really get into that middle price point and hopefully service a lot of people that can't get to the $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 suit.
No, I think that at $399 to $599, that's actually for something that is custom made.
Yeah.
For people who've never had anything custom made, that's an amazing price point. And I'm actually quite shocked.
We've worked hard.
Fantastic. So what's the best way for people to learn more about SuitKits? I know that when this comes out, you guys will be launching in a couple days. So Can they just go on the site and sign up, and will everything be up?
Yeah. So our landing pages are live now. So if you go to www.suitkits.com, SuitKits.com, you can see what we're about, our story, how it works, all of that stuff right now, even before launch. But as I said, we are launching very soon. So everything will be up on the website and live for you to design your own custom suits and go to our tailors by October 28th. But I would really encourage your listeners, if they can, to at least go on the website and sign up for our mailing list, because if you go onto our mailing list before our launch, we will get you special launch perks during our promo week, and it'll get you an even better discount on that custom suit.
All right, guys. So if you are going to be interviewing for jobs, if you're going to be going out,
I
would wear a suit out on a night. I love a suit jacket, especially in this weather.
Yes.
So I'm all about it. So you guys should head on over and definitely sign up and check out. I love the website, and I'm so excited about everything that you're doing.
Thank you. And of course, you can also follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @SuitKits.
Fantastic. Yep. And I will include all of those links in the show notes at thehappylawyerproject.com. So for all of you guys who are in the car, out on a jog, at the gym, you can go to the website and I'll have it all there for you.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much again for doing this. And it was nice to connect and have you share your story. I'm excited to get this out. And as you recall, the last question I ask everyone on the show is, what do you believe separates happy lawyers from lawyers who struggle to find happiness in life with a law degree?
Such a great question. And I'm so glad you asked that of everybody. So what I would say is the happiest lawyers that I know are the ones that are actually not doing it for the money. So kind of what I talked about before, like they're doing it because they love, the intellectual exercise. They're doing it because they love getting up in front of a jury and advocating for a client. They're doing it because they love, to make someone's life better or fight for those who are less fortunate than them. As fascinating and dynamic as I think the law is and can be for many people, and an amazing foundation it can be to get into all sorts of things like business, etc. Whatever your particular reason for doing it really does have to transcend beyond the paycheck.
That's a wonderful, wonderful response. And I hope that people will take that to heart and really try to find the thing in the law that sparks some joy in their life.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for listening.